I want to pay tribute to John Murphy, a really, truly great technical analyst who sadly passed away on Saturday, the 7th of February last month. And there's been a lot of tributes, and in the technical analysis community, we're all deeply shocked and saddened because he had such an influence on the subject. And John's the book that I first had back in 1986 was Technical Analysis of the Futures Markets. This book, the pages are kind of falling out. But that was the book that really got me into technical analysis. And this book is still the book that we recommend as the Bible. It was revised to the technical analysis of financial markets. That's a later edition. I've got a couple of copies of this. And really, it is, in all my work, I still say it's the Bible and the book I recommend. In my training courses, which hundreds of traders in over 100 companies have sat on, I talk about this in my online course, and in a lot of my work I refer to the page references for Murphy. So when I do the LSEG webinars, I refer to that as well. I'm a bit of a Murphy nut. I've got it on Kindle, and the key thing was that this book, his books came out after Wells Wilder's book, which was New Concepts of Technical Analysis. Edwards and McGee, of course, didn't really have that. The newer volume, Financial Markets, included candlesticks, and he was a great pal of Greg Morris, a friend of mine, and Greg's book on candlestick charting, and Steve Nice's book, which came before it, but Greg's book on candlestick charting. Then in the later book, the chapter on candlesticks, and this I love it on Kindle because it's searchable, but the chapter on candlesticks is actually written by Greg Morris, and I know Greg will be devastated, having worked as part of Murphy Morris as in partnership with John for years. But if you haven't got this book, you really do need it as a technical analyst, and I do stress that. And I have it on Kindle. I also have it on my on Audible. I listen to it on a plane, and I just do find it's deeply embedded. And I love having it on my Kindle, on both my phone and on my laptop, so that when I'm traveling, I still have it with me. And it's an absolutely vital resource. And I know when I've gone in to train people and do training courses in-house, quite often they will have a copy of Murphy as part of their library, which is great to see. But as I mentioned, as a technical analyst, you want that. And John did write other books as well. I was lucky enough to meet John a few times at IFTA conferences and CMT conferences in New York. And he was such a friendly, nice person. And I really was grateful that he'd spend the time, and he had a good sense of humor, a really fun guy. But he wrote quite a lot of books. This one in 1996, The Visual Investor, and his work on intermarket analysis too. This one was in 2004, and this book really is so interesting, and even to go back to, it's interesting here he talks about the importance of the oil in markets and gold and how markets are interrelated. He talks about the first Persian War, which is rather timely now. And I would say that a lot of my work, as I mention him in various parts of my training course, and the free LSEG London Stock Exchange webinars I do every month. A lot of that is based on his work. So when I talk about market super cycles, that's coming out of his market analysis, and just things like the bond markets, the effect that the bond market's having here. We see the Japanese bond market. It's such a rich knowledge that he's given us, and even down to the point where I've got his workbook. So it's a really sad end for the technical analysis crew, because John really, I think, wrote what I call the Bible. And if you haven't got that book, it's really, really worth getting it. I'm deeply indebted to him and his work because of what it's given me. And I just wanted to really say that my best wishes. And you can plant a tree. I've planted a tree on his. I'll put the link below. But it's if you Google, you can plant a tree. And as someone who grew up in a plant nursery in Australia, that's a deeply important thing to do. So I bought a tree. And but the key thing is, you do have this book. It is still the Bible for technical analysis, and the world of technical analysis is at a loss for losing John Murphy. Thank you.